In the car, as always, rock was playing. A respectable man in his late 40s was driving at high speed towards a small town, where he had once had friends. Sometimes he had even bought a business there and had to stay living in the city for months. Then I was still working in a large financial company. It had been so many years now. At that time, nothing had predicted that he would become the most influential person in the place. Juan was driving at an impressive speed while the memories flashed before his eyes and, at times, the car skidded when it took sharp turns. He wanted to get there as soon as possible and rent a room at the hotel. The hotel had been quite ugly before, but today, before leaving, Juan read some opinions on the internet that stated that time does not stop and everything changes. During those 20 years that he had not been in the city, he had not been the only one who had been improving in all aspects. The city had also changed, and now everyone was happy with the service and furnishings of the local hotel. Thoughts of a hot shower alternated periodically with the feeling of hunger, pricking in the stomach. It had been almost 2 days since Juan had eaten. He had been closing deals and working for two, since his partner had found himself in the hospital with appendicitis when he was most needed. He had had to take responsibility for everything. That was why he had missed the meeting with his wife's class. He had been working through documents most of the night, going over every important aspect. Not only he, but also his lawyers had not slept. However, his wife didn't care what she had to do and why. She put on a little act over which they continued to fight for the next 2 days. Juan had to answer the phone and attend meetings at the same time. He returned home where his wife did not cook anything on principle, even though she could do it perfectly. It was her way of getting back at her for not being able to brag about her wonderful husband to her friends. I spent a month preparing for this meeting. It should have outshone everyone. They bullied me at school. I hate them. I should have been the star of the reunion, and you ruined everything. I even had hair extensions specifically for the occasion, yelled the beautiful, slim woman with blonde hair and long black nails. Too beautiful to be smart. So Juan thought while Beatriz assembled the chicken again. It is that they already know that you are married to a banker and businessman. Show them the prenuptial agreement or grab a bank statement. Replied Juan indifferently, weighing at the same time the 5th clause of the agreement that a partner should sign. Is everything considered or not? You are my husband and I am like a widow with a living husband. I'm sick of going to all the events alone. You don't have any time for me. You have never loved me. I hate you. You only care about your money. She screamed. It's you who cares about money. That's why I work. I haven't lost my mind and I'm not going to lose a 20 million settlement for a meeting with your silly classmates. You'll be the first to run from me if I start making such decisions. Juan understood that his capricious wife was right. He had never wanted her. He had married her only because he was bored. At his job he was great, successful, and incomparable. The powerful had predicted a great future for him. But in his huge house, where he returned after work, no one was waiting for him except Alejandro, a bald cat. Neither money nor work can replace the natural human need for love. Juan did not have an intimate relationship with his parents. They lived in the countryside with a simple life and they always loved their sister more, who had fulfilled the expectations of the couple of doctors by becoming a wonderful pediatrician. And Juan, having become rich, helped them move to a good house and provided them with everything they needed, but he did not succeed in increasing the kindness and sympathy between them. He met Beatriz at an important event in the city. She was Miss Corrientes and winner of many other beauty pageant titles, full of confidence, pretty and young, with very long legs. While Juan had a big black hole in his soul after a difficult separation from his beloved woman. He had been single for many years, dedicating himself only to work. His colleagues and friends took him to men's clubs, but it disgusted him to see lowlife women who sold their bodies to earn money. So he smiled at Beatrice and immediately thought that he would marry her. I had no idea then that she was nothing more than one of those women who make a living selling their beauty. Beatrice was already 25 years old, and Juan was 35. He decided that the children he would have with such a woman would be as beautiful as her and as intelligent as him. They got married, and it soon became clear that, apart from her big beautiful eyes, Beatrice had nothing genuine about her. He cooked, but rarely. She neglected cleaning and dirty dishes because she was lazy. In the past, Juan had always done all the housework himself, because he believed that each person had an obligation to clean the place where they lived. This is what distinguishes you from an animal. But Beatrice broke this stereotype of hers, and he had to hire a cleaner. They became two lazy animals who had no time for each other. They started to hate each other because they realized that they were completely different. She wanted money from him, and wanted him to love her, adore her, pamper her. But all he could give her was money. He wanted consideration, sympathy, and children. And she only presented her pretty face, giving her the proper reputation in the business world. He knew how to behave in any society. It was a profitable match for him, but nothing more. With his wife alive, one felt like an infinitely lonely widower with a broken heart. She, in fact, felt the same way about him. Juan headed for the provinces with the tenacity of a sailor looking for dry land. It wasn't just because he had business there. A very important part of his life, like a Horcrux, remained there, having languished in place for 20 years. At that time, not only the hotel had not been in the best conditions in the city. There was only one hospital, which Juan had been lucky to go to. He had a fight over a girl at the time because he liked her. It had been in his nature since childhood, if he liked something, he got it. This is what happened at school, when young Juan was punched by his classmates. He became friends with the bar, and within a year he had already taken revenge on each one. And as soon as he saw the young woman then, 20 years ago, when he was first tasked by his superiors with closing a big deal in that city, he completely lost control. The girl wasn't glamorous, but there was something in her big brown eyes that made him ache inside. He approached her, but was rejected. "I'm sorry, but I'm not single," he said meekly and left. Juan was watching her all night. There was a party in the yard of an acquaintance. It was summer, the open air, some garlands, a fountain in the patio, and music. There was food on the tables, eaten comfortably standing up. The friend was one of the first to organize this type of party in his city. He had just returned from the United States and was inspired by the way everything was celebrated there. They were all young and drunk. At the end of the evening, Juan saw the brown-eyed girl arguing with her boyfriend in a corner of the room. It turned out that he was the host of the party and the same friend of Juan, Pablo. "What's happening here? Is he harassing you?" Juan decided to defend the girl. "No, we're just talking," said the girl, whose short curly chocolate-colored hair left her neck shamelessly bare. "What's the problem, man?" "It's my girl, Vicky." "Victory! Go away." John frowned. He looked back at the girl and realized that he wasn't imagining things. In fact, it had a certain charm. "I cannot go," he said without taking his eyes off the beauty. "Because? It seems that I fell in love." One thing led to another, and Juan got into a fight. Unfortunately, his friend turned out to be a martial artist and an ambulance had to be called for Juan. However, Victoria visited Juan in the hospital and told him that she was done with Pablo. Thus began the shortest romance of his life, but the most memorable. He appreciated Victoria so much that only for her was he willing to swallow his pride, to leave everything, his job, his place of residence. He would have killed himself and sold his organs on the black market if she had wanted it, he was so in love with her. But it all ended soon and stupidly. Juan promised himself to forget about her, and he kept his promise. I didn't think about her for a long time. That is, until exactly the day they told him about a businessman who wanted to sell his business in that city. Wasn't it your city? Did he still live there or not? I'm sure she was already married, had children. Juan was driving down the road, trying to imagine her face, the features of her face. Of course, he would not find the same woman there. Now he was 40 years old, he has changed not only in appearance. But there is something in a person that is timeless. Something that doesn't change. And it was worth seeing her, if only to see if her feelings back then were genuine. Did she remember him as he remembered her? At that moment the car skidded again and Juan stepped on the brake, but he realized that it was not working. The road was going downhill and the car found itself in the other lane, where another was going in the opposite direction. The brain instantly shut down all memories. The adrenaline turned off all romantic thoughts and activated the self-preservation instinct to no end. Juan began to turn the wheel, remembering at the same time how he had put the anti-alarm instead of the belt. His comfortable car had always warned him he should buckle up. But who cares? In a city of perpetual traffic jams there was little to fear. However, he skidded onto the icy road and drove like crazy. I should have buckled up, he whispered to himself as he tried to control the vehicle in the skid. At the same instant, the car flew off the road and overturned several times. The businessman fainted. Early the next morning, a slender young woman with cold blue eyes and hair the color of sea sand was walking calmly to work. He left an hour early as a precaution. Her short blue jacket was clearly out of season, but it was gorgeous. The girl was young, in her 20s. She was in a hurry to get to work at the local hospital, where the unpleasant head of the department was already waiting for her. He had hired her only because he had to, reluctantly. She said that there was no position for her and that she had to make an effort to look for it. Of course, it was a lie. She and her mother were short of money and it was simply impossible to go find work in the neighboring city, 200 kilometers away, to rent an apartment there. Apart from her mother, Anna did not have any relatives who could help her. Fortunately, her teacher always defended her and used the important contacts he had in the city. He appreciated Anna and considered her the best student in his class. In her authoritative opinion, she had everything to be a good professional. Anna was meticulous, thinking everything a few moves in advance. Cut off from the group, she never skipped class and wasn't afraid to report everyone. Her classmates didn't like her, but Anna didn't study medicine to make other people like her. She loved the profession and was a handyman in her field. Even in her first year her injections and systems were recognized as the best. "You are a natural doctor," the dean told him. Anna was sure of herself, but her confidence fell in view of having to beg for work. What's more, now the young director was demanding his attention. At first, he tried to catch her in the act of making a mistake. When he realized that this was impossible and that she could be more competent than half his staff, he began courting her. Anna was tough, but she didn't dare snap at the boss. She needed this job because there was nowhere else for a nurse to go in this city. She told her mother, who was her only friend. "Please. Maybe you imagined it." Her mother smiled, sitting in front of the television late at night. "I didn't imagine it. If I tell him to fuck off, he'll fire me, ruin my employment record. I can't let some jerk ruin my future. Annie, maybe you should study it more carefully? What if you're meant to be with him?" Anna's mother was a dreamy woman. She was pretty, short curly chocolate brown hair, deep brown eyes. "Mrs. Victoria, you must be kidding." The daughter smiled. "He has a leering look and does not let any nurse pass. I don't want to be one of them, who he chases." "Well, I didn't know that in medicine, as in show business, there was a sofa casting." Her mother just shook her head and said that Annie was making things complicated. It would be enough to do your job and ignore all the advances of the boss. In other words, be stupid. What could he do then? Nothing. And in case of harassment, in those days the mobile phone already existed. Turn on the camera, record a video, and nobody will fire you for rejecting the proposal to sleep with the director. Anna thought about those words from her mother as she walked to work, clutching her mobile phone tightly. Whatever happened, she would be able to defend herself, no doubt. He was only afraid of going too far and getting into trouble. Since he had started his studies, his personal life had taken a back seat. "You are forgetting that I exist," complained her boyfriend, whom Anna had been dating since 9th grade. "I have to study," repeated Anna. Soon, the guy accused Anna of being a careerist and worrying only about her studies. He left her, but Anna barely noticed. Her mother had always told her that she had inherited her father's character, just as ambitious, tough, and determined. Anna shrugged her shoulders indifferently. She didn't know her father, nor did she want to know him. His mother didn't talk about him much, just once in a while. Anna understood that there was no point in talking about him, since he wasn't with her, so be it. She trusted her mother unconditionally and had no intention of looking for her father, even when she became an adult. Anna believed that he had abandoned her, that he had cheated on her. He thought that he had done a lot of damage to her, since she did not want to talk about him anymore, since he had deprived her of the child. And if he knew that Anna was his daughter and she didn't show up, there was no point in looking for him. It wasn't worth it. With these thoughts in mind, he arrived at the hospital. "Put on your uniform quickly. We have a serious patient, we are going to operate on him. We need you, all the nurses got sick with the flu. Come on." The head nurse yelled at Anna and ran to the operating room. Anna looked at her watch. He arrived half an hour ago, and yet he was late. Thinking that you had to live in the hospital to satisfy the head nurse, Anna ran to change her clothes. A minute later it was ready. The bright light from the operating room blinded her. Anna had only gone through the operating room a couple of times, and they were elective surgeries in which she was present for almost the entire university course. He was assisting the surgeon that day, unerringly passing him the correct parts. He remembered that the teacher had told him, "Learn it by heart so as not to confuse anything even with your eyes closed." One day, your knowledge may save someone's life. On the contrary, your ignorance can cost him his life. And he learned it. So to this day, in a real emergency surgery that lasted 2 hours, he hasn't made a single mistake. That's it. "How's the blood pressure?" the surgeon asked as he finished the stitching. "All right," replied the head nurse, who was also assisting the surgeon. "Anna, you did well. Your teacher did not praise you for anything," the surgeon told him, smiling behind the mask. Anna spent the rest of the day with the patient she was helping to save. She was proud to be involved in the operation and wanted to take care of the man. In addition, in this way he was able to avoid the intrusive attention of the head of the department, Mr. Perez. It was getting closer to night when the head nurse informed her that even more staff had fallen victim to it and that Anna would have to stay behind to replace them. The hospital was already understaffed, and with an epidemic at the beginning of winter the situation had become quite difficult. There was a shortage of doctors and junior staff changed frequently. Not many got along with the difficult-natured head nurse and the overly loving boss. There were other departments too, but they had their own difficulties. "Will Mr. Perez also be there during the night shift?" asked Anna. "Why are you interested?" the head nurse inquired curiously. Anna lowered her eyes. Well, there you have it. Now he would think she was interested in him. One of the most experienced doctors should watch the comatose patient. "We just took him from the operating room and he still hasn't come to his senses," said Anne harshly. The nurse pursed her lips. "Yes, he will stay too. Can you stay during night shift?" "Of course." Instead of going home at 6 p.m., Anna drank a cup of coffee with condensed milk and went back to check on the patient. I watched his vital signs and waited for him to wake up. "Well, how is our patient?" asked Mr. Perez as he entered the room. Anna began to break out in a cold sweat. My God, it was easier to watch a surgeon perform an operation than to endure passive aggression and bullying. No news. Vital signs are within normality. The dropper is almost empty. I'm waiting for it to run out and I'm going to change it, Anna answered without looking at the boss. "And how are you, Annie? The surgeon told me that you helped him. Praised you." "I'm fine. Yes, I helped him." Mr. Perez approached and looked into Anna's cold blue eyes. "Shall we have a coffee?" he asked languidly, as if he were talking about sex. "I already took one. One more cup and I'll lie next to the man in a coma," he responded nonchalantly, resisting the director's overwhelming gaze. You have to admit, he was an attractive man. Almost 40 years old, with short hair and a little overweight, but with good posture, always smiling. The dimples on both cheeks and hooded eyes made him more charming than Cristiano Ronaldo. He was tall, with strong hands. He knew how to reprimand in such a way that the staff continued to love and respect him. But he was also a hypocrite and a bootlicker. And, of course, a womanizer. Well, he nodded, sighed and left the ICU, leaving Anna alone. 40 minutes later, when Anna changed the drip, the patient finally regained consciousness. Anna immediately called Mr. Perez, staying in the nursing room. Soon, the boss was back there too. This time he didn't bother Anna, but just helped himself to a cup of coffee. He drank it without sugar or milk, black, hot and bitter. Anna wrinkled her nose, imagining the kind of man the director belonged to if he was able to drink this. Your favorite Santi works tomorrow. Doesn't it bother you that you're not on the same shift with him now? Asked the boss without looking at Anna. Santiago? Why do you think it bothers me that you're not here today? Anna, he frowned. Santiago had come to work as a nurse at the same time as her, but they had studied in different schools. They were both rookies, and because of that they became friends. Santiago didn't pay any special attention to her, not once did he hint that he liked Anna. That's why it was easy for her to be with him. Anna had gotten out of the habit of having romantic relationships during the 3 years of her studies. She understood that she had to do something with her private life somehow, make friends, find a boyfriend. She should live a full life, but she never found the time to. At school he had had friends. It had been a fun, carefree time. Why had all that disappeared? Now the only thing he could do was talk about everything about the job with Santiago. He saw the rest of the hospital staff even worse. He limited himself to formalities such as greetings with them. Oh. Santiago is in love with you. Me too? Don't say I've grown too old to win you over? He asked bluntly. Anna looked at the director and raised her eyebrows. Is Santiago in love with me? What nonsense! What makes you think that? He asked, chuckling and ignoring her direct statement of desire. Everybody knows. Except you. And shrugged. Then, he looked fixedly at Mr. Perez. Speaking of you and me, I'm sorry, but no. I'm not willing to be in a relationship with anyone, and you're not my type. And it would be easier for both of us to work if you stopped paying so much attention to me. Anna said that and lowered her eyes. In his head there was a bustle of thoughts about whether he had rejected the director too harshly. But a weight was lifted from him. He finally said what was torturing his mind. Ah, Anita, don't exaggerate so much. I didn't mean anything like that. You are young and exalted. But maybe you should think more about it. It's all about status in our lives. I, for example, am the head of the department. I have a good reputation, I have some money. Also, doctors have a certain power over people, I'm sure you understand that. And Santiago is the son of a nurse and a veterinarian. His mother gave birth to him when he was older. I didn't know her, but she worked here, in our department. Santiago is not promising at all, Anna, and I am. I'm not married, I guess I'm not ugly. And I'm not hinting at sex now. I'm hinting at a relationship. What if I want to marry you? Anna watched him drink the bitter coffee without even wrinkling her nose. The disgust at him was rising rapidly within her. You misunderstood me too. I don't want to get married and I'm not looking for a relationship. I don't see him as a potential partner, he's just my colleague. Just like Santiago. If I want a relationship one day, my choice will not be based on whether or not the man is promising. Private life is not a career and I am not choosing a pedigreed cat. Mr. Perez laughed. Anita, you are a charm. But you are wrong. Well, on the other hand, only God knows what could happen. For example, do you know who is in the intensive care unit now? The man we operated on today? No. Anna didn't even think about who her patient was. The very idea of dividing people into rich and poor here in the hospital seemed blasphemy to him. Hippocrates, hearing such speeches, would probably have beaten Mr. Perez to death with a shovel. Guess, said. I would say that he is an accountant. Or a lawyer. The director gave a mischievous smile. Who is a banker, Anita? He came to our city to buy a bank branch and turn it into his own subsidiary. He has businesses all along the coast, in all the nearby cities. He's a big shot. How do you drive carelessly? He even had such a serious accident. He almost died. Who knows? His wife called us, she said she will come here today. So you're going to have visitors. That you be kind to her. People of this type can do anything if they don't like you. Saying this, Mr. Perez left the room. Anna also went to the intensive care unit and examined the patient again. Improvement was observed. For her, nothing had changed in him. What difference does it make if he is a janitor or a banker? His mission at the hospital was to heal people, both good and bad, murderers and clerics alike. Moreover, it is not known which person is better. As his teacher used to say, doctors heal, they don't judge. Those who judge are the judges. Get better, said Anna, and was about to leave when suddenly she heard voices on the other side of the door, in the corridor. Is my husband asleep? Asked the apparent wife of the patient. Yes, he had major surgery. Doctor, what happens if he never recovers? Asked the woman's voice. Anna approached the patient in silence and remained motionless. He heard it all, too, and was looking at her, and she looked at him. Anna put a finger to her lips, signaling the patient to keep quiet. He immediately understood that she was not supposed to have heard that. "What does it mean?" asked the head of the department. "I will pay you 200,000 in cash as soon as my husband finishes without recovering from this terrible accident." "It's clear now?" Anna saw that the patient was trying to get up and grabbed his hand. He shook his head and motioned for him to be quiet again. "Quite. Is he capable of doing it? Or should I ask someone else?" "Yes, I am. But I can't do anything right now. Our new nurse is taking care of him, she is too responsible, she does not get away from him. In the morning he will leave and then I will think of something," said Mr. Perez. Anna and the patient looked at each other. Footsteps were soon heard in the hallway. "It's my wife," said the patient. "I guessed it. Well, and I'm the overly responsible nurse. Why does his wife want to kill him?" asked Anna. "I did not go with her to a meeting of her classmates," the man replied, moving his lips with difficulty. "You can see, what an important reason. It's not enough just to kill you for it," he said with a smile. The man smiled at him too. "My name is Juan," was introduced. "Anna." Anna sighed and looked at her phone. "I'll help you. I have no choice, it's that I took the Hippocratic Oath. Don't worry." Anna went to the window and dialed Santiago's number. Now I saw him differently. Could it be that Mr. Perez was right and he really liked it? A tone rang, another, the third, and Santiago answered the phone. It was almost 11 at night. "Hello," Santiago said happily with a sleepy voice. And smiled. It seemed that it was true. She would kill anyone who woke her up at this hour. "Hello. I have to talk to you about a proposal. We're both going to jail for this, but I can't do anything else. We have a businessman in the hospital, and he and I just heard his wife ask our Perez to kill him. He said he would pay him to do it. And he accepted." Something fell on the other side of the line. Santiago himself may not have been able to stay in bed when he heard that. "Maybe you got something wrong? Perez is a jerk, but not a murderer. What is a doctor? I heard it myself. Of course we can take a chance and leave it at that, and then spend the rest of our lives wondering if it was an accident. Perez said he would wait for me to leave and do what the patient's wife asked. Well, what do you suggest we do? We called the police? No, I have no proof. We have to get the patient out of here. We'll take him to my house and I'll go back to the hospital, end my shift like nothing happened. You have a car, right? Santiago promised to bring the car to the back door in an hour. Anna began to pack the patient's things. He peeked into the doctor's room, where Mr. Perez was sleeping peacefully on the sofa. He wondered if he had lost a screw. And what if he had misunderstood everything? But that man, Juan, begged him not to leave him alone. He had heard the same thing as her, and when Anna finished talking with Santiago, Juan said that he would pay her any amount of money so she wouldn't abandon him. She barely managed to convince him that she would be back, that she just needed to get everything ready. When Anna saw the headlights of the car through the window, she realized that it was Santiago. He entered through the back door. Smoking doctors and nurses came out of this door periodically to have a cigarette. There was no gate on that side, so it was prudent to arrive by car. Hello. I understand correctly that you and I are going to kidnap someone now, right? He asked, smiling. Anna looked at him, and the director's words resurfaced in her mind. Was he really willing to do something that's serious for her? Unfortunately, if you have to do it. In any case, he wants it himself, he begged me. Shall we take it to your house? Santiago asked. Anne agreed. Is your mother already aware? Anna sighed, remembering that she had completely forgotten to warn her mother in the chaos of the situation. Well, there is no alternative. It will be a surprise. Santiago and Anna went up to the first floor and put Juan in the wheelchair. She bit her lip to keep from crying out in pain. You do realize that I might not survive this trip, right? Asked Santiago, seeing the grave condition of the patient. I won't survive if I stay. Please. I will assume all possible consequences, only I will answer for everything. My wife decided to kill me. I had no idea you hated me so much. Anna and Santiago looked at each other. There was determination in her eyes and fear in his. Come on, ordered Anna. The patient was lowered on the forklift and carried to the car. Santiago carried him out of the wheelchair and Anna carried the chair back to where they had taken it. Then they were going together, in silence. John was sleepy. Anna was concerned that the incisions could open up and he would die of internal bleeding. How would I explain it then? However, medical intuition told him that this was only possible in the case of a serious injury, a concussion, a blow. They had operated on him 24 hours ago, he should be fine. Santiago drove very carefully. I looked, from time to time, in the rearview mirror. There, Anna gently grabbed the stranger's hand. How had he dared to do such madness? But if what they had heard is true, then he was doing a good deed. You're saving a man's life, even if it's not with the methods you were taught in school. She is a true medical professional and a true altruist. It is people of this type who sustain our world and our lives. Santiago came to admire her even more. Sometimes Anna caught his gaze fixed on her and understood that the attention of a man like Santiago was probably very pleasant and flattering to her. It was worth a lot that she didn't obsessively bother him and that he didn't highlight his attraction to her, like the boss did. He decided that he probably liked it. And why not? And what Mr. Perez had said about him, could it really repel her? His parents were nothing more than simple workers, so what? The car stopped in front of the building where Anna lived. She and Santiago got out, leaving the patient inside the vehicle. You have to move him quickly to my apartment. What plant is it? Santiago asked. Second floor. There is no elevator. And lowered her head. She reproached herself for not having thought of any detail before. No detail. How had I not thought of this? How was he supposed that a patient who had just had surgery was now going to get to his floor? He couldn't move, let alone stand up. This trip had already been a big risk. The boss must fire me now. Anna whispered, raising her hands to her head. Santiago took her hands and looked into her eyes. He was so much taller than her that Anna only reached the level of her shoulders. Hey, what's up? You are a hero. You are doing what must be done. Few people have so many guts. I'll figure out something. Santiago helped Juan out of the car, picked him up and took him away. Anna walked beside him, dying of shame for having made Santiago carry a grown man in her arms. He weighed at least 90 kilos, maybe even 100. Santiago bravely carried him to the second floor. Anna quickly opened the door, and Santiago entered without taking off his shoes and left the patient on the sofa in the living room. Are you okay? Asked Anna. Santiago smiled, breathing hard. No problem. He had to carry heavier things. Thank you, young man. I will always be in your debt, John murmured. Anne examined it. She put him on a drip and gave him the necessary injections. He had brought the medicines from the hospital. Annie, what's going on? Her mother asked as she came out of the bedroom in a long light turquoise nightgown. Anna and Santiago froze at the door. Juan stared at the woman as if he had seen a ghost. He didn't say anything, and neither did she. Mom, don't be afraid, now I'll explain everything to you. Santiago watched as Anna sat her mother down on a chair, took her hands, and explained why she had done it. He told her everything, trying to reassure her. But he reacted strangely. Anna's mother was crying looking at the man. A tear ran down Juan's cheek as well. I am very sorry if I have scared or bothered you, mother, but I had no other choice. We have to save this man. Annie, I don't think your mother is dismayed by that, John said quietly. Anna looked at him without understanding anything. That doesn't matter. Go to the hospital, Annie. No one should know you are out. If they realize you're not there and don't find you there, there will be big problems. Go away, we'll take care of it later. And I will take care of Mr. Martinez. Juan, that is, his mother said. He practically kicked his daughter and her fellow assistant out of the department. Anna barely had time to explain what medications, when and how to give Juan and what to do with and for. Santiago took Anna to the hospital. On the way they talked about what would happen if Anna were accused of kidnapping a patient, of putting his life in danger. And did you notice how your mother reacted so strangely to Juan? Santiago asked. I had the impression that I had known him for a long time. Come on, how could I know him? He doesn't even live in our city. Santiago shrugged, looking down the nearly empty freeway. I don't know, Anna. But she called him by his last name. I didn't even know him. Anna slowly turned her head and looked at Santiago. I didn't know him either. He only remembered his name. She definitely knows him somehow. Damn! What a strange night. Anna ran her hands over her face, fighting the drowsiness. Isn't that your father, by any chance? Santiago asked. Do not say foolishness. Anna rejected him. Well, he has the same eyes as you. Cold and expressive. Did you like our patient's eyes? He asked flirtatiously. Yes. It's a charm. I'm thinking of hooking up with him. Santiago joked, which made Anna laugh. And took her hand. It was something unexpected, and Santiago immediately stopped smiling. Thank you. For all. Maybe I got you in trouble. I hope everything goes well. And if you don't succeed in making Mr. Martinez fall in love, sometime I'll have a coffee with you, she said nervously. James smiled. If you did everything for us to have a date, you could have simply asked me. Moron. Anna laughed again. I'm kidding. You have no idea what's going on inside of me right now. I take your word, yes. You're not going to run away from me now. She got out of the car, but he grabbed her arm. Wait. I don't dare kiss you now, I don't think it's appropriate right now. But I really want to hug you. I can do it? Asked. Anna nodded, thinking how great he really was. He hugged her and lifted her up. At that moment, Anna was released from all fears and worries, and allowed herself to merge with him in souls. The hug lasted only a few minutes, and then Anna had to return to the hospital. He prowled the dark hallway, looking around and wondering if anyone had noticed his absence. There was no one in the hallway. Anna went to the bathroom, washed her face, got ready, and went to the nursing station. The room was empty. Anna stretched out on the sofa, but she stayed awake without sleeping. He wondered what kind of relationship there was between his mother and Juan. What if Santiago had hit him with his joke? What if he was her real father? Her thoughts gradually turned to Santiago. Mr. Perez had no idea that by telling nasty gossip about Santiago he only motivated her to get a more intimate relationship with him. Apparently, he was jealous of other men who talked to Anna, but if it hadn't been for his words, she wouldn't have seen Santiago in a special way. And now she felt butterflies in her stomach at the thought of him. Anna fell asleep only around dawn. She woke up early, finding Mr. Perez and the head of the hospital standing, looking down on her. Anna got up quickly on the sofa when she remembered the events of the night. "Anna, there's an emergency at the hospital and you're asleep." "What happened, Mr. Gomez?" he asked the head of the hospital. "I changed the drippers and lay down. The alarm button did not sound." Anna rose to her feet and, keeping her expression neutral, cast a questioning look at the man in the white coat. "The patient from yesterday disappeared, Anita. Didn't you hear anything last night?" asked the head doctor. "My God. No. I only know that his wife was coming. Mr. Perez told me." "Came?" Anna continued to make herself innocent. Mr. Perez shook his head. "Yes, he was here, but he's gone, I told you. There was no one in the hospital. You know, rich people have some weird quirks. But we can't leave it like this. We have to call the police. The man has just had a serious operation." Anna overheard them talking about calling the police and talking about other things. Then her double shift ended and Anna went home when the policeman gave her permission to go. Of course, no one suspected that such a sweet and naive girl could kidnap a huge man from the hospital with a bunch of administered drips. Returning home, Anna began to examine Juan. His mother was in the kitchen, making food. "Annie, I'm going to get up. Help me get to the bathroom." "Use the potty, Mr. Martinez." "I brought a potty." "Don't be embarrassed, I'm a nurse and you need it, considering your condition." "No, Annie, I'll go to the bathroom. Let me save face at least on that. Yesterday a young boy carried me in his arms. I've already got you in trouble." Anna helped him get to the bathroom and sit back down on the sofa. The stitches were fine, the temperature and blood pressure were within normal limits for such a condition. Anna left Mr. Martinez and went to the kitchen. His mother was sitting at the table with a steaming cup of tea. "Mom, let's talk," said Anna. "What is there to talk about? You probably already guessed it. You are not stupid." Anna looked at her mother as if seeing her for the first time. "Does it mean?" "I don't understand. Do you know him? Did he do something wrong to you?" "Almost. He made me have you. And he left." Victoria, Anna's mother, turned to the window, wiping away her tears. Anne sighed. "What a twist of fate. You must know that the walls here are so thin that I can hear everything." "Victoria, let me explain it to you," the voice was heard from the living room. Anna and her mother entered the room and sat next to Juan. He couldn't stop looking at Victoria. Nothing had changed for him, Vicky, except maybe she became more beautiful. "While I was on the way, my head was filled with thoughts that I did not love my wife. That I never loved anyone but you, Vicky. The truth is that I was thinking of visiting you. And now, do you see what turned out? I did it. Annie saved me when my wife offered the doctor money to end me. We both heard it. Don't scold her. We already know that. I want to know, are you really my father? Annie asked. There was a moment of silence in the room. Juan looked questioningly at Victoria, who did not hide her tears. Vicky, I think you should give an answer. Anna looked at her mother. Hadn't she told him? Yes, it's your father. I hid it from him. There were reasons for it. Juan frowned and sighed. Anna saw that it was still difficult for him to speak and he should stop explaining himself, but she couldn't stop him. I'll tell you how it was. You will understand that it was not his fault. It was only my fault. We were young and stupid. I fell in love with Vicky. I took her from a friend of mine. I was mad with love. I was in your city just for work, while doing business. You know, at that time I had just started working at the firm and my boss really liked me very quickly. It was a great honor and a great responsibility for me. He pushed the men who had worked with him for years into the background and tasked me with closing the deal. I knew it was something of a challenge and came here to make it all perfect. But I fell in love and it almost ruined the business. In the end everything went well and the boss congratulated me. It was time to go, and he couldn't leave Vicky here. I was here 3 months, 2 of which we hardly parted. It was true love. At least for me, I don't know anything about her. Victoria refused to come with me. I remember coming down on my knees and asking her to come with me, but she kept insisting that she wouldn't leave. She asked me to come visit her and so we agreed that we would maintain a long-distance relationship. However, one stupid photo ruined everything. Victoria called me and said she missed me. That was a week after I left. I promised to visit her soon. The same day a newspaper was published in which they put a photo of me and my daughter in a suggestive pose. We were celebrating the closing of the deal at a banquet that day. The photos went viral. That night the boss's daughter was hitting on me, and it wasn't until the end of the evening that I managed to explain to her that I was in love with another woman. When he came to visit Vicky, he kicked me out. I told him repeatedly that it had only been a kiss, the kiss that was caught in the photo and caused a stir. We hadn't done anything else. We had a big fight then. I apologized several times, explaining that the girl was drunk, that it wasn't my fault. That's what I thought at the time. Now I realize that it was my fault. It's pretty clear. I shouldn't have let him reach out and touch me, so nothing would have happened. But I was young and not used to abstaining from pleasures. However, the fact is that there was only a small kiss, which I interrupted, and said your name, Vicky. Saying this, one paused to catch his breath. That's it, he can't talk anymore, Mom. Continue. Finish the story, we'll figure it all out, and Mr. Martinez will have to get some sleep. Victoria wiped away her tears. I banished him, daughter. I was going to tell him I was pregnant, but I didn't. Now yes, I realize that much more can be forgiven than a simple kiss. I should have believed Juan. When he was leaving, he swore to forget me. I understood then that I was not going to return. She wanted to tell him that she was expecting a baby. I even came to your city at the end of the pregnancy. But they told me that Juan was out of town. So I had to go back to my city. Then it was more difficult to find each other. We did not have mobile phones. He did not answer his home phone because he had moved. I tried to come back with you after a year. Why didn't you tell me you had a daughter with me? Asked John. Anna stared at her mother again with disgust. The new details stirred his mind. Oh. At the age of 20, discover who you are, who is your father, what are your roots? I lied to you about being married. I was afraid you would take my daughter from me. Besides, I felt hurt because you weren't there for me. I still loved you then. John looked up. And I still love you. Anna felt tears running down her cheeks. Okay, that's it. Stop. Senor Martinez is going to sleep now. I put the drip on him. And Mom has to go to work. I'll be sleeping in my room. Call me if you need anything, okay? Juan agreed and Victoria got up and went to get ready. I had completely forgotten that I had to go to work. The past had not only knocked on her door, it had crashed against her, turning everything in her life upside down. When Anna woke up, it was already getting dark outside. Mr. Martinez, how do you feel? Asked Anna. I'm fine. I'm up, but I didn't want to wake you up. I need a phone, Annie. I have to call my partners. Yesterday I was completely unable, but today I feel better. I take it the arms and legs aren't broken, just the ribs? He said. Suddenly, Anna realized that she hadn't told him exactly what had happened to her. It had all started happening too fast. He has a compound rib fracture. The rib had nearly pierced his lungs. They were affected, but not seriously. The impact did damage to his spleen as well. You had internal bleeding, but we saw you later. He has a serious concussion. I'm surprised nothing else broke. Patients in these types of accidents often have all their bones broken, from head to toe. And you only broke a few ribs. John looked at her smiling. We're talking about you, okay? It turns out that you and I are not strangers. I'm not asking you to call me father, but I want to get to know you better. And pursed her lips. She would like to say that she didn't need to have a father, that she had lived without him for 20 years without a problem and would continue to do so. But there was no point in lying. From the first minutes, when Juan was still lying on the operating table, Anna felt a certain affection for him. Afterwards, he did not move away from him and took care of him. He must have known intuitively that he was part of his family. She saw him as someone very well known, and she also wanted very much to get to know him better. There was no resentment in his soul, it was no one's fault that this had happened. And she had no right to condemn her parents, that's what Anna decided. She was angry with her mother when she found out about everything, but she suppressed this feeling because she was not suitable in that situation. Good. If you want, we can get to know each other better because I want to too. The next afternoon Anna spent taking care of her father, so they talked a lot. As they talked, it became clear that Anna was an exact copy of her father in everything. He resembled him in physical appearance and had the same character. When Victoria returned home, she found her daughter and the man who helped give birth to her laughing. Annie showed him photos from her childhood and told him stories from her school days. Everyone has such stories. They are counted at all parties to the family. I'm going to heat the soup, Vicky said. Don't worry, I already warmed it up. Dad ate. Now you can eat too, said Anna. It took her just a few hours to learn this new word for her, Dad. Victoria was hurt by this, she was jealous of him. He hadn't taken the child from her then, would he now? He knew it was foolish to think like that, but he couldn't help it. Victoria ate dinner, and while she was washing the dishes, the doorbell rang. She opened it and several men entered the apartment, ignoring Vicky as if she were not the hostess. Ana identified Mr. Perez among the intruders, who had entered the house without taking off their shoes. Next to him must have been Juan's wife, a beautiful blonde. 2 more men came with them. "I told you I was involved." "That scolds you, girl," said Mr. Perez. "Thank you, sir, we'll figure it out ourselves from here." "Beatriz, what are you doing here?" asked Juan, looking at his wife. "What do I do here? And what are you doing here? Why do I have to look for you in the ass of the world? And what are you doing in this shitty department?" Ana crossed her arms. "How rude. You must be my stepmother?" she asked. Beatriz's eyes widened looking at her husband. Victoria stood to the side, watching her nervously. "Your stepmother? What's happening? John, let's go right now." "No, they're not going anywhere. You need medical treatment." "I'm taking care of him," Ana replied. Juan smiled when he saw what a brave daughter he had. "I advise you, my dear, to go as far as possible from this city. I heard you wanted to kill me. You were late. I am no longer defenseless," John declared. Beatriz looked around and sank fussily into a chair. "Now my men will pick you up and we will talk about your helplessness in the car. I'm sick of you. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll make it home unharmed tonight." Some guys in black leather jackets were already approaching Juan, but he didn't get scared, he just smiled. "Why do you smile?" Beatriz asked. "I have already told you, you are late," Juan said and kept smiling. A moment ago he had seen in the browser that his companions were already arriving. And then they were at the door. "Mr. Martinez? What's going on here?" asked one of the 4 huge men who had entered the apartment. Beatriz's 2 men backed off. "I think Beatriz decided to kill me." "Is it true, Beatriz? Tell my guards what you told the doctor yesterday. By the way, that's the doctor over there. Guys, fix it, but please don't do anything illegal. Or almost nothing, you already know how to do it. Our lawyers explained to you how far you can act outside the law. I'm not going to teach you." Juan's friends and their guards dragged the corrupt doctor and Beatriz, who was really scared, and the 2 guys Beatriz had hired to help her out of the apartment. When everyone left, Juan looked at Vicky. "Sorry, they brought so much dirt in their boots. And I can't mop the floor." Ana sighed sharply. "What a cool guy you are," she said and gently hugged her father. Ana, Victoria, and Juan spent the next month together. Ana insisted that her father was under her supervision, but really, she just wanted to be with him. He seized the opportunity and stayed there with them. Victoria kept her distance from him. She knew that the situation was better than if Juan left and took Ani with him. Juan was recovering quickly and he kept telling Vicky how much he loved her and how much he loved her. But she did not reciprocate. She had feelings for him, but for some reason she held it back. Senor Martinez was often visited by his assistant. She brought him his things, his documents, and a laptop. Juan worked from home, staying where he had dreamed of being for the past 20 years. Ana went to work and came home happy. They began a real relationship with Santiago. They kissed at work, secretly, having requested a new schedule so that their shifts coincided. Mr. Perez, jealous of Santiago for his potential relationship with Ana, had made the schedule so that they would never see each other, but everything had changed. After Juan's men had taken Senor Perez and Beatriz out of the apartment, no one saw him. Ana was worried that Juan had ordered him killed, but he just smiled. "I'm not a murderer, honey. I never solve my problems this way. But this doctor of yours agreed to kill me, you heard it too. My people intimidated him and watched him for a while. He just packed up and left town. In fact, he's moved a long way from here. By the way, his hands were stained with blood, he was even in jail. You did not know? Anna raised her eyebrows. Was Mr. Perez in jail? He asked in surprise. Yes, for raping a nurse, but he managed to get him acquitted. I also don't think he did it by honest and legal means. So don't worry. But if you're already that worried, my people will find his number so you can make sure he's safe and sound. Anna shook her head. She admired her father and had no reason to be disappointed in him. It seemed perfect to him. As a child, Annie had often fantasized about what her father might be like. But reality surpassed all his fantasies, even the best ones. For many years Juan had asked Beatriz to have a daughter. She had always dreamed of having a daughter. But he had never imagined that he already had what he dreamed of. There was no point in judging Vicky now for hiding Annie from him. He just wanted to get on with his life, with them, together. Except Victoria didn't want that. The day that Juan dared to ask him directly, Anna was not at home. I had an appointment with Santiago. Victoria, I fully understand that you barely tolerate me, it's clear to me. You put up with me for the sake of our daughter. You already know how I feel about you. So I want to ask you, do you want to be my wife? Victoria looked at Juan with pity. That look told him everything he needed to understand. She was silent, and Juan had already begun to talk himself out of getting so angry. After all, no one promised her that she would throw herself at his feet as soon as she appeared at the door. Giving up was not part of his plan. It is not possible to bathe twice in the same river. I feel guilty for what I did to you. I'm really sorry. But I don't want to continue the relationship. I have my own life and I am happy with it. I'm past the age where you can change everything and start from scratch. We should have done it before. Juan shrugged. You are 40 years old and you sound like you are 70. Even at 70 it is not too late. It's my decision. I guess you're leaving? Vicky asked. Yes, I have to go back, I have work there. That was the end of the awkward conversation. At night, when Anna returned home, Juan told her everything and asked her not to feel angry with her mother. He said it was all his fault. Anna cried because she did not want her father to leave. I will come to see you. You can visit me too, at any time. Anytime you feel like it, call me, and my man will come for you. And then it will take you back whenever you want. Done deal? Asked the father. Anne agreed. Juan left the next day. He returned to work, to life as usual. Except that Beatriz was no longer in his life. She had filed for a divorce long ago, when she was in Vicky's apartment. A few days after the banker returned to his hometown, a notice arrived. He had to appear at the civil registry. The day Juan signed and obtained the divorce certificate, he received a phone call from an unknown number. Hello, was heard from the phone. John sighed. Of course, he recognized her. What do you want, Beatriz? I just got rid of you. You know, you have treated me unfairly. I should have gotten something from you when we got divorced. You left me with nothing. Juan sighed again. And how did he manage to live with that woman for so many years? Beatriz, I left you the car, all the jewelry, and your expensive clothes. You have an apartment, of course it's not in the center of the city, but you have one, and it's not bad. I don't think I owe you anything else. Your lawyers tricked me. I ran out of money. But I got revenge on you. You will know how I did it very soon. When you find out, remember what you did to me. And don't try to look for me, I'm leaving with my young lover. You will never see me again. But I promise you that I will be happy. Juan hung up because he didn't want to hear that nonsense anymore. However, the phone rang again. When he saw the number, he answered immediately, even though he had to be reviewing important business reports from last year. 1. Anna was hit by a car. Is in the hospital. Come, it's very bad. Vicky said it calmly and hung up. Juan spent a few minutes trying to understand what had happened. He cannot believe it. No. You won't take it from me. He grumbled. Juan ran down the stairs and jumped into the car. He drove at full speed, just like a month ago, when that monstrous accident had happened. That was what Beatrice hinted at. He ran over Ani with the car. He took revenge for the divorce and for the fact that his guards had thrown her and her belongings out of the house as if she were nobody to him, less than an animal. Juan dialed the phone number of a police colonel he knew. Manuel, we must start an urgent hunt for my ex-wife. You just ran over someone with your car. It is 100% true. She confessed it to me herself. Do it, please. Okay. Juan briefly explained the situation to his friend, who promised that he would detain Beatrice until the circumstances were clarified. He wouldn't get away with it. He made another call to the head doctor of the hospital where Juan was being examined. It was a private clinic, one of the best. I knew the head doctor because he was the sponsor of the clinic. At Juan's request, a helicopter with a team of high-level specialists flew into the city that same hour to help Anna. The 2 calls could solve everything. But would they arrive on time? The road was too long, even though Juan was pressing the accelerator with all his force. The slow passage of time was driving him crazy. She was not afraid of having an accident like that day. Now she had only one fear left: losing her daughter. When Juan arrived, Anna was already being carried on a stretcher to the helicopter. He is in critical condition, Mr. Martinez. We will do everything possible. The doctor yelled at him and rushed to the helicopter. Victoria was standing there, crying her eyes out. Juan approached her. Come on. We fly with them, he ordered. They boarded the helicopter and in a few minutes they arrived at the specialized center of a luxury clinic. Victoria and Juan stayed in the corridor, holding hands. Suddenly, the ringing of the phone made Juan shudder. They had sat in complete silence for over an hour while the operation took place. Mr. Martinez, your wife was arrested. We already have the video from the cameras at the scene of the accident. The recordings confirm his involvement in his daughter's accident. It was she who ran over her with the car. Don't worry, Beatrice won't be released for years. How is your daughter? He will get over? The policeman asked. Juan hung up and began to cry. What's happening? That? Vicky asked. She hugged him, wiped the tears from his face, asked him to stay whole for her sake. He asked how Ani was. And I don't know. I don't know if my daughter will survive, John said with difficulty. You know, I promised him something. While she was still conscious, I approached her, without asking the doctors for permission. And he made me promise to marry you. He said that you love me and that we should be together as a family. If it was your last request, I'll do it. God, he would do anything for her. Victoria started to cry too. At that moment, a young surgeon with black hair came out of the operating room. "It's stabilized. We will watch her. We can't say anything about the prognosis yet, it all depends on his body, if he is strong enough to overcome the injuries. If he is strong of heart, he will recover," said the surgeon. John smiled. "He is very strong-hearted. Looks like me." A few hours later, Anna regained consciousness. The doctors said there was improvement, but they would keep her in the intensive care unit for another month. Anna was on the mend and kept reminding her mother that she had promised to accept her father's marriage proposal. "I promised you and I will. The most important thing to me is that you are happy." Vicky and Juan became close while Anna was in the hospital. Anna was discharged a month later. She was glad to return home, where Santiago was waiting for her, full of nervousness. He visited her several times, but he couldn't always be by her side because of his work. To please everyone, Juan did a clever thing. He found good jobs in his hometown for Anna and Santiago. They were still working in a hospital, but it was a private clinic. They worked as a nurse and nurse. In addition, Juan bought Anna her own apartment so that she wouldn't refuse to move. It was more difficult to convince Victoria to move from her hometown, but she followed her daughter, having been convinced. Vicky and Juan began to live together. They appeared at the civil registry, and a month later the woman became Mr. Martinez's wife. The banquet was lavish, with more guests than at their first wedding. The news that Beatriz received a 5-year prison sentence made everyone happy: Anna, Victoria, and Juan himself. At the wedding, when the rings had been exchanged, the speeches had been made, and the guests were drunk, Juan approached Vicky. She was wearing a beautiful white dress and did not have a veil. "What an ideal woman." "Vicky, now we speak without a facade. Tell me the truth, did you really want to marry me?" It was important to him that she really loved him. He had already had a woman who did not love him. "No," smiled. One couldn't resist a smile. "Nothing? Not even a little?" "I wouldn't have married you if it wasn't for what happened to Anna and what he promised her. I take such things seriously. I'd be lying if I said I don't love you. But time changed everything, Juan." I hug her. For the first time, she told him that she loved him. Isn't this happiness? And you only accepted because you made the promise? Oh really? Of course not. It's also because I'm pregnant. She's had enough of a baby we gave birth to when I raised her on my own. Juan lifted Vicky in his arms and began to spin around, shouting with all his might, "We're going to have a baby. I'm going to be a father." Vicky laughed in his arms, feeling like the happiest woman in the world. Time fixed everything. At last. The guests took the news as an excuse to drink again. The newlyweds were showered with congratulations and heard new toasts. Anna and Santiago did not hide their happiness. They planned to get married the same year too, but a bit later. If you liked the story, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel.